You want, yeah, you want them to have a sense of satisfaction at that point of getting to the treasure, you know. Yeah, yeah. So that's the kind of thing you want to do, and then you can have that as your focus of the year in terms of how you bring things.
Yeah, I just keep thinking. Sorry, I thought for so long. I'm like thinking, it's just been this whole year. It's been about like, what can you do? What can you do? What can you do? And it's kind of pushed me into this place where I'm really not even looking at them anymore. It's like I'm just looking at myself and what I've done wrong to create.
Right.
But that's not what it is,
exactly.
and
exactly.
I can't think that way. And, so like even going into this year, I just keep thinking to myself, like, okay, what can I do now to serve them, to be a better teacher? But I don't want to think that way because, I mean, while that's important, it's not about me, and so.
And we have, and that's why we have a clear picture of our expectations as teachers. And we can use it as an objective standard so that we're not really always judging ourselves. Well, I mean, I can just say, have I brought these things or not, And if I haven't brought those things, then it may not be the reason the children are having problems, but I can't know that. So the thing is, the whole reason that we want to be better teachers is because that will give us a clearer picture of who the children are. To the degree that we're not, we don't have information about the children. And that's my motivation for wanting to make sure my stuff is not there. Is because then I'm going to get some information about who the child is. So that would be the motivation as opposed to self-judgment.
Right.
So block sequence. So there's the blocks, there's the support lessons, and then the skills and capacities that you are expecting from the children. So let's think about that before I just take the mind. So you basically have, now, even though you have about, say, 7-9 blocks, some of those are going to repeat. Like you're going to maybe do a certain block more than once, like a math block or whatever, a language arts block. So the question is what are the blocks that you feel like you need for this year?
So we're form drawing?
Well, let me suggest to you that you not put form drawing down.
Okay.
That you put that in support lesson.
Okay.
So other than form drawing is actually a support lesson.
So.
And usually your first block is going to be okay. You had last year, so you're going to have
language arts.
But I mean, you're going to have a review. It could be a review of language arts. So each of your first blocks are going to be more or less a review.
Okay.
It's going to either be the review. We don't have to decide to order, but you're going to have a review of language arts, and you're going to have a review of what you brought in the math. So those are 2 blocks.
So review language arts. Would I review the entire year's worth of language arts, or just?
No, you're saying you're going to understand what capacities and skills you're looking for, and you're going to develop a review to see where those are. And so basically, coming out of last year, you're going to be looking at whether or not the children have the phonetic blends. So you're going to be looking at if you brought that last year. If you didn't bring that last year, then you would begin with showing up their ability to recognize the phonetic blends. You don't have to put that right there, though. We're just going to write the blocks.
Oh, sorry.
We're not going to do all of that.
I'm going to save that for me.
Okay.
So that I remember.
Okay. Yeah.
Look at capacities. Okay.
And then we need a review of the math arts too. And then you got to think, okay, where are you going to take them next? Because I wanted to get all the blocks. You may not have room now.
Oops.
So we have the review. Then where's the first place we want to take them from where they were last year? Remember, our goal is writing to read toward choral reading at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. And so if we're in language arts and we recognize, okay, we're going to show up the phonetic blends, to be able to do writing, invented writing, to improve their invented writing skills, what will they need?
they need to have the phonetic blends.
Yeah, so let's assume they have those okay.
Yeah.
And we've done the review and we've shored them up. We spent 3-4 weeks on that.
So they need to practice their writing. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, so what do they need to become better writers now? They have phonetic blends. What else do they need? I'm asking because you have to be able to think of these things because, and basically they need to core words. They need to frequently use words.
Yeah.
Without frequently use words, then they're going to have a hell of a time trying to become writers.
Right.
They need so
we're doing the sight word block.
Right. So that's going to be next.
Okay.
After you review the phonetic blends, you're going to do sight word blocks. And if you went on to math as the next thing, what would be the next math block after you had reviewed? Basically, from the previous year, what you're hoping is the children have a sense of the whole numbers, that they know that each number is a whole. That's what you're reviewing. If I give them number 4, they can break the 4 down into 3 and 1. Give them 10, they can do all those wholes. That they can look at a whole number and they can, out of that whole number, have a sense of how its different parts under the various arithmetic processes. Those are the various arithmetic processes, actually. That's exactly the point I was talking about. I'm not trying to get into the realm. You don't want to focus on the arithmetic processes as arbitrary and rote. You want them to flow out of their capacity to see those wholes. And so let's assume we saw that they have a certain quality for that. And now we're moving to the next thing, which we talked about. What were the important wholes that they needed to have? One more important than all of them in our number system.
I can't remember. Can I look at our notes?
Yeah,
it down.
It was over here. I thought I saw it. So.
Regrouping.
Yeah, so regrouping is what you're moving toward. So you're going to begin giving them the foundation for regrouping. And with that foundation for regrouping, then they're going to be able to start. And maybe this first block, I don't know, it depends on how far along we are. Then you're going to go to vertical operations. So regrouping, and maybe in the middle of that regrouping block, maybe switch to vertical operations. But if you did the review, you can probably go right into vertical, because in your review, you probably have gotten to the point where you can go to the vertical operations in your next block for regrouping. And with this, of course, you want to be bringing the other. This is the 10 as a whole, but you want to also bring 5 and 2, regrouping in terms of 5 and 2, so they can understand that, the number 7, I can regroup that into 5 and 2. I can regroup the number 8 into 5 and 3. Or any number I can regroup into 2 numbers, and if it's an odd number, plus 1. So if I give you the number 19, I can think, that's an odd number, go to 18, but 8 is 9 plus 9 plus 1. So I'm regrouping in terms of even and odd. So that's the other regrouping activity you want to do. So regrouping in terms of 5, regrouping in terms of 2s, and regrouping in terms of 10s.
And this form drawing, since I'm not doing a block, I just use that in my language arts.
I'll go ahead and give you an example of my schedule. So I had, these are my support lessons during the week. So this was my main lesson. And you say I moved form drawing here.
Oh, I see. Like you did it in a separate block.
Right.
Okay.
Because I felt like, and I did flutes and singing, I did flutes and beeswax and painting, and then I had games.
Okay.
So those are my support lessons. And then, of course, I had the special subjects, too.
Okay. So this
and I don't know how much y'all changed it.
Extra main.
Yeah, they call it extra main. So I don't know how you all got that organized. Now it was organized pretty much the same way for second grade, where that you have extra main and mains and how they.
I like how this is set up. That you had all. This was always you here.
Mm-hmm.
See, ours is inconsistent. I like
Yeah.
that. That's. Okay.
You know, for me in the second grade they had it like that, so it worked out pretty well.
That's nice. That's really nice for them. Okay. Games. You did games too.
I didn't do games, but games was the one thing that didn't come out of there. It just happened to came there. But no, someone else was doing games. And of course, my first group, who I was doing all of this stuff.
No.
I did handwork too. I didn't do Spanish and everything, but you know, so you have to be able to. And I don't know if you did. You didn't do flute. That's coming next year, though, right? You all doing flutes and singing.
It's another thing that I have to.
And I couldn't. I was trying. I have some resources, but I couldn't find my. I have a book that all of my songs I did through the grades and verses, but I haven't found it yet.
Okay.
It's kind of missing, but I have a bunch of songs and stuff and flutes.
Okay,
Yeah, well, I'm looking for it. It's in the attic probably.
So if you do form drawing as an extra main, don't you normally have a cursive language arts lesson when you block?
So here's my block sequence, so I'll go ahead and show it to you.
Because I thought that would be kind of...
So my first block was actually handwriting and reading. Then I had math operation facts, which was really my review block. Then I had identifying core words, sight words. Then I did coloring and math. Then I did phonetic writing, was actually having them starting to actually do a lot of writing. Now, what I did, these were my main blocks, and then they repeated. You know, I repeated these on different levels during the year. And it's like, for instance, that was only once. But I had, like this one right here, coloring and math, I have 2 of those blocks. See, 3 of them actually, 1, 2, 3, but that was probably my, and then phonetic writing, I had 2 of those blocks, you know. So I had to make sure that they could do that. They had learned to write. And so these were the core things I knew I needed right here in terms of main lesson content. And then I basically decided how I was going to do that during the year. And then I associated my story content, of course, with those things. And then here's my support lessons, you know. And so basically, and I had.
So my question for you is, when did you teach cursive?
You know, and actually I have the other thing I have, which is my year-end review, which tells you exactly what I did the whole year.
Okay.
Take that out. Okay, and there's the year-end review. I printed all these out this morning. Here it is. Yeah, so there's my curriculum description for the year. And it tells you basically what I did. The only thing that's not on there is when I did oral reading. But so I started out reviewing the letter formation and phonetic blends. And I did cursive. Where do you see that? I know it's on there. Is it on there? Do you see it on there?
Which one?
Cursive? Oh, there it is.
I haven't gotten
there it is. So the second paragraph to the last, the large paragraph says, at our ready for spring ceremony, each student offered something. After hearing stories about St. Francis, the students completed their academic work by writing phonetically. Remember, using cursive handwriting. So actually I had them prepared for cursive handwriting, and I did that in form drawing. My form drawing evolved into my cursive writing thing. So they were ready to start trying to actually write phonetically using their cursive handwriting by that point in the year. So I thought that'd give you a pretty good sense
this is nice. Yeah.
how it flows.
Okay.
ready for spring ceremony. I didn't see it. It's totally doesn't make any sense.
When did you send this to the parents?
This was the end of the year. The end of the year report, I always sent the curriculum description for the whole year.
Okay. Yeah, I did that
just
too.
to review it,
Okay.
The whole year. And so I still got all of those from the years that I did them. And so,
can I keep this?
Yeah, I was getting copies of these for you. I wanted to have you kind of go through it first and then give them to you. So form drawing, like I said, you have these things that you need. You can go ahead and write these too. So you're probably going to want to do singing and flute, since you all aren't going to have anybody do it for you. You're going to do beeswax, and you're going to do painting. So those are your support lessons during the year. The other thing you have to consider are what skills you're trying to get the children to have and what capacities are the foundation for those skills. And you have to look at your, did I give you that copy of that thing? I gave you that, right? It's on here. Did I give you this?
No.
Keep that too. And you can see where I have skills work.
Mm-hmm.
And basically what I tended to work on in each of the lessons. But I don't have on here what the capacities are for each one of those. And so that's what you got to think about. Okay, math. I'm working on math. What's the capacity that I'm working on? Like, am I still working on making sure that the children have a sense of the wholes? Do I need to go back and get the capacity is well formed or not? If that capacity is there, what I mean the unity of correspondences. Are they still working on that? Because if they don't have the capacity, then you got to be thinking how you're building that capacity from the previous year. Or are they? If they have those capacities, how am I working really on the children being able to analyze those wholes into those unities? What am I doing for that? Because those are the capacities. They're going to have all kind of arithmetic skills and things you might want them to do, but those are the foundational capacities, and so you have to be evaluating whether or not the children are demonstrating the capacities, not only whether or not they're showing the skills, regrouping or remembering the columnar process. Those are all skills,
right?
And those skills are going to always be inhibited by the lack of capacities,
right?
And so you have to have that in mind.
That is something I had trouble with last year, was sorting whether they had the capacity and then altering things to help meet that.
Right, exactly.
Because I didn't necessarily, even if they didn't have it, I didn't necessarily know what to do to support them.
Right.
Or usually it's like a certain child, or so I don't know if you have any.
Yeah,
we could talk about that at a separate block.
Another time,
yeah.
I want to show you some pictures of some of the math work that I did, so you can see what the math work a little bit looks like. I just have some of my math work on here, pictures of the books.
Yeah, I'm hoping my image will shift this year.
Oh, and also, I did have this. This is my daily schedule. I was going to give you a copy of that. This was because when I had people come in to take my class, then I would always put these daily schedules together.
Oh, nice, yeah.
And I could show you exactly how the day looked.
Right.
Oh, this is wrong one though. This is 5th grade.
Uh-oh.
So
that would be bad. Now I would realize that.
Because the Ode to Joy was a song we sung, so yeah, we weren't singing Ode to Joy.
How different should my 2nd grade look from the 1st grade?
It doesn't need to look that different. The only thing that looks different really is that you have the different kinds of blocks.
Right.
You're bringing different stuff, but in terms of the rhythm of the day, it still looks about the same. It doesn't really change that much. Okay, where did I put that at? Is that it? There it is. Yeah, okay. And actually, there's some. This is like from my first math group. Some of these things I don't do the same way, and I'll show you. I set the problems up differently. These are just some examples. Okay, I think that's the beginning of it. So, this, and now, I recommend you just go ahead and use the royal family to make it simple, because the royal family has been associated with the qualities for each of the arithmetic operations. So, this is a phlegmatic quality, and that's the king. And so, so I would usually, a lot of times I would have, well, in this case I have two pictures, but usually I have a picture across the top, and I use a big one lesson book, and I had a picture across the top, and then I had problems under it. I think the next one will show that.
Well, you know my image that I used last year for math, I told you about it, right? There's king equals, but then we also had a different character for each operation. The king was not the addition.
Right.
So should I change my story? Like use a new one this
Yeah,
year?
I think you should change them.
Okay.
And this is just another kind of thing I did, to show that graphically. But, and so this is Queen Manus, I believe. She's giving stuff away here, and they're taking it away. And all of these first ones, I don't know why I did two, because let me see if I got something to show how I actually did it. I always set it up with the picture on top. These are the graphic things. So you always want to be doing the graphics, as well as, you have the story, you have the graphics, and you have the numerical thing. So those are the three elements you're always bringing.
Right.
And usually you present this first, because I found the children nowadays, want that challenges them. And then you go to the story, and then you go to the graphics, and then back to the numerical. But you should always be working all three of those, and then you go forward and backwards. Like here, I'm teaching regrouping, but this is the first time I'm doing it, so it's horizontal. And so what I've done, 7 plus 8. So they'll put their, just like I do the plus sign, because it's 7 before, 8 after, how many all together. But then we do this thing where we count after the 7 to 10, 7, 8, 9, 10, and we put those in parentheses. And then we can see the answer is 15.
So did you do this numeric form before you did the algorithm?
Yeah.
I did it the other way. I did the algorithm, and then I showed the numeric.
No, normally you would. Normally you would do story first, then you would do this. But what I found with children nowadays is they want this to engage. It engages them. This does not engage them. They get lost.
They didn't. Actually, my
and
children were like, when can we do the numbers?
Right. And so what I do is I go ahead and do the numbers first, but then they don't really necessarily always know how to solve them. And then the story and the graphic become a tool they use to achieve the challenge that they're taking up. So I present the challenge first, because that engages them.
Okay.
And then I go back and do the story and draw the graphic out of that. And then if they have questions, then I can use the story and the graphic as tools to help them solve their questions.
Okay.
And then they're interested in those because they're in response to them trying to solve this.
Yeah.
And so this is the first way I presented regrouping around tens. Horizontally, and you could have did this even in the first review block. After you did the review, the last week of the review block, then you say, well, let's see if we can do numbers like 5 plus 6, and then we start using the regrouping method. But then we're going to switch that to vertical, and we're going to use numbers and things, and we can use fabs like I've shown you. But this is an initial introduction to regrouping. So I didn't see the pictures I wanted. Oh, the pictures I wanted aren't here for some reason. This is multiplication.
Is there a royal family story?
I had a whole. You may read the thing. It says up here in my thing right here. That says. Tells you what I did.
What did mine? Is that the one?
Okay. Here it is. It says, use mathematics to solidify memory of the truth and we practice it while students heard weaving stories about the king, queen, princess, and prince in preparation for their introduction to short arithmetic columnar
Did
operations.
you just make one up?
I had a whole story, but and I took the quality. So I had a story that informed my story. I know that the king is phlegmatic, so he was doing, that phlegmatic quality came out from story and in the process of adding, because adding is a phlegmatic process. Mm-hmm. And then the queen is melancholic, and it's subtraction, and she takes stuff from the king. I have poems that I use for each of them.
So why is the king phlegmatic?
The king is a phlegmatic character. The king basically is ruling over the land. That requires a phlegmatic quality, like as opposed to the prince, who's choleric, who goes out and fights the dragon. Okay. The king doesn't usually go out and fight the dragon. Right. The king rules the land.
Because I would have thought the king would be choleric, but you're right. I guess he doesn't actively really.
Right. It's the one who has to go out and prove himself is the prince.
Okay. And then the sanguine is who?
Is the princess.
Okay.
The princess. And so I don't think I have that story, where I'll look around for it, but I just created this whole evolving story. They really liked it, and then later on in the year we actually wrote that up as part of our phonetic writing and stuff because they remembered it by heart, But anyway, let me see. I'm trying to find. Maybe I didn't do it today. So here's one. This is how I generally looked, where I had half the page was the drawing and half the page was the representative of the things. And so here I'm doing columnar. So I started with columnar, doing it. You can. Now I did this first graphically, which means I put my 5. Put my so try to do the 5 and so this was 5 plus 3, and this was 5 plus 3, and so they could see that 3 and 3 was 6, and then they had a 5 and 5 was 10. So that's how I did this initially. But then we after practice that for a while, we went on to just doing the numbers. Well, we know we made a 10. How did we make that 10? Well, we took 2 from the 8, and that left 6. And we took 2 over there, and that gave us a 10. So that's how they should learn quickly to be able to do 8 plus 8 by just doing 10s. But I regrouped with 5s first. You can just judge where your children are. If they really need to go back to 5s, or if you think they can regroup 10s right away. And you do that still, even though you regroup 10s, you do it with dots first, graphically first. And then you always have the story, and then you have the thing there. Here's subtraction. Subtraction, you do the 10, you borrow the 10, but you take away the 7, because that's what it says. This is take away 7, it's not take away 4. So you have 10, take away 7, left you what? It left you with 3, and 4 plus 3 is 7, so that's how you get your answer. Same thing, 10, take away what? Take away 8. Mm-hmm. And how many did that leave you? It left you 2 to put with the 6, and then that left you 8. That kind of process. And here's division. So we had 34. 34, that was what was in there. And we wanted to, this is regrouping, because so that 2 were coming. And so they saw that they couldn't give them, they had 3, but they gave each one of them 2, and they gave them 1 left over. They took that 1 bag and took everything out to make a 10. And they gave them 14 altogether. So then how many could each one of them get? They got 7 apiece. So your answer was 17. This is when you get to division. These aren't in order. And in this case, you can do this different ways, but the way I did it, you can see in this case, I did the way I don't really like the way I did it. I made they were coming to get 10s. So this group was coming to get 1s, 3 1s. And this group was coming to get purple ones. They're distinguished by color. I really don't like this one that much because there's no real, there are distinctions over here. These are bigger than these, so there's supposed to be 10 spools of those. And then so 3 times 3 was 9. So there were 3 people and they each got 3, so that makes 9. And 2 came and each got 3 of the 10s. Right. And so that made 6 10s.
What about, that reminds me about doing place value. Like that first year that I was transitioning the kids to Kyle's class, I did that whole lesson on the squirrel who went and collected the nuts and put them in the bags, and then the children would put them in the bags, and then we did like a regrouping or a place value lesson. Would you do that?
And so you can do that. You're doing you're really what you're doing is just this block right here. Really, this is what you're doing, but you're just doing it as a place value block.
Right.
You know, you're doing so you're saying you have 4 and you have 7, and you could have did that back here too when we had the horizontal thing, so what you saying? This is regrouping, and this is place value, and you just keep building up the place value. You can do it like that, or you're saying just take a number.
I like to actually I had this chart and it had the tens, or the ones, the tens, and the hundreds. And I told some story. There's a story about, I'd have to look back on it, about a squirrel who went to collect food, and I had different sizes. I had like nuts, and then I had like seeds, and so the children could trade them in. And then at the end, I think I created like a store where they came in to trade them in and get them.
And I did something similar. See, but you're just doing all of this. You're doing this just without the columnar context.
Right.
And that's all you're doing, just doing the same thing. And so I just built off the columnar process to all of that, to place value, as opposed to doing place value as an extra block.
But is it okay if I do place value?
And the thing is, you got to ask yourself, you're doing place value for what reason?
Right.
And if so, you're doing place value, and essentially you want the children to become familiar with these big numbers.
Right.
But for what reason? If they're still really just doing small numbers.
Right.
You know, I could put 230 on the board, and then I could have a place value block to teach them to be able to recognize that was 3 of these 10s, and then put those together. So I could teach place value block like that.
Because I almost wonder if they have it. It just seems so abstract if you don't know what it is, if you don't understand that. Some of the children don't understand that the 100 is.
I know, but see, we're not doing hundreds.
Right, but.
So we're starting with what they do understand and building up.
But the number as a whole, I guess, is confusing once you get past 10. Maybe.
It is. It is. Unless you have built that up from adding just 2 numbers to adding 2 digits plus 1 digit to adding. Then you just build it up. You build the place value up through the operation.
Okay.
And it's just a choice.
It's really just not necessary.
Because as opposed to just going and teaching an abstract number, like you said, 230, and then teaching them that they're 230, then you have to flesh out what 230 is. So you're teaching place value outside the context of arithmetic, which is, I don't know why you're doing it, because you're actually still doing the arithmetic. Because you're just doing the lesson twice. Okay. And I don't know, it depends on the children. I'm not saying you don't have to do it that way, because there's nothing wrong with it in the sense that you're going to basically be regrouping. But you're teaching regrouping outside of the context now of the algorithm. And I just think that things need to be more integrated. I'm not going to teach I can teach a property of place value. But that property, remember I talked about how you want the brambles? And you don't want these things which are like, the things which are separate, like the algorithm itself is separate. So I want to make sure I connect that with my development of number sense. You know what I mean? So when they add 4 plus 7, I want that to be a part of them having a sense of the numbers.
Right, I understand.
And I don't want to just have them do anything. And place value itself is an arbitrary thing, And so I want them to make sure that if it's part of number sense, Say, for instance, you teach 30, and you build up the hundreds by number sense. What is 30 plus 70? And then, that's 100. So now we got a different thing called 100. Just like we do with the tens. So make it part of. If you're going to do it, just make sure that number sense is a part of it, and if you're not just saying, okay, we have 10 ones, and that makes a 10. And then we can have a certain number of those. We can have 30 of those, 40 of those, and we can get 100 of those. We can get 10 of those, and that's 100. And that's just really an arbitrary thing for them to remember. You see what I'm saying?
I understand that.
As opposed to I want to understand that when I get to tens, that the tens, there's number sense in tens, like just like this 2 and 8 makes 10, or 80 and 20 makes 100. That's a useful thing because that's helping them to broaden their number sense, and then I can bring place value into that also. You want to keep it anything that you think will go into the child's consciousness as an abstract, a bramble, apart from something else. That's something that's, this stands over here by itself for some reason. And so as long as it doesn't go in as an independent thing that I learned apart from the rest of the math, then it's fine. So just have the idea of teaching it like that so that the whole is still there.
Just want it to be connected, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, those are just some pictures of math. Unfortunately, I couldn't find my pictures of my language arts stuff.
Are you able to put those on the site? I'm not going to remember any of that stuff.
I can send. Yeah, I can send them. I can put them in. I got a folder for you, and I can put them in that folder that I made for you. Where are we at? Time. There's a clock right there, but with my glasses, I can't see.
3:20.
Oh, so we're almost out of time already. Out of time. So again, I didn't really detail skills and capacities, but we want to look at the skills that we're going to be having, like the skills like, arithmetic algorithms, like writing, and we want to ask ourselves what are the capacities that are going to support these skills, and that's going to be important. So that we're bringing it to bear in our planning. Whenever we're requiring a skill from the children, we should be asking ourselves, how are we supporting that with an understanding of where the children are capacity-wise, and just not ignoring it, just bringing skills.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. And I fell into a little bit of, like, I had a lot of parents last year, like, what are my kids learning? What are they learning? They wanted to see, like, proof that the children were learning. And so I kind of fell into that, we need to teach this, and we need to get this finished.
Right.
And
that's why that's why the other teachers need to give you support in your conversations with your parents about capacities.
Yeah.
This is fundamental to what we do, and so your mentors there need to be saying, okay, we're going to help you go talk to your parents about why we are a capacity-based curriculum. I'm trying to find out.
And I'm not the best communicator, so I probably didn't do very well with that either.
Maybe I can look at a few of the resources I got for you.
Okay.
For now. So this is one important resource.
I would like something on. Oh, thanks.
You ever seen that book before?
No.
Okay, this book should be a reader for resting reading.
Okay.
King Around's Son. I'm missing so much stuff. This is not my best fables book. There's a book of fables, but it's not my best fables book. I got another one.
Is this an early in the year reader? Is that okay?
Yeah, you can read it early in the year. I love that story. And it's very weaving. It weaves a whole lot of other fairy tales into it. Did you read The Prince? The Prince is another good book. It's called The Prince. It's sometimes in the first grade reader. But if you didn't know it, The Prince is a good one. Now, if you look on here, I have, these are the festivals in the year that you're going to be looking at. And across the top, I have, a lot of the saint stories you're going to be wanting to tell, and when you're going to bring them, depending on how so you look at your block, you can see how I use my fables in conjunction with my core words, so they made it easy. Mm-hmm. And then, but the seasonal saints, and I would do one saint a week. I don't have, I would just stretch the story out.
Right.
And these are the big ones you're going to use. St. George, you're going to have. Squanto is a saint story to be used. You know Squanto? You heard Squanto? Mm-hmm. Squanto is a Native American the Pilgrims met, and his whole story. He gets captured, taken to England twice, undergoes a whole lot of abuse, and then by the time after he's went through all that abuse, the Pilgrims come. He then still helps them.
Okay, and so would that be in the
Halloween
main books?
No.
Main
You
books
don't have to do that. It doesn't have to be a story. They don't have to write that story. That's a food for thought story. Okay. Most of the saint stories, I don't have a saint main lesson book. I'm doing something else. I'm doing math, and I'm telling the saint stories as food for thought. I'm not. That's usually how I'm doing it. Or not always, because sometimes I did have that math story at one point.
Okay.
So, but a lot of the times I'm telling saint stories. I didn't have a saint story book. I mean, some people do that. They tell the same stories. I tell the same stories. I review them. We may act them out, but we don't have to put those in a book. I don't do it. I don't do it.
Oh, I just meant we have a couple books at school that we use, like we do for like Grimm, but second grade we have like a couple of saints books.
And you have a couple of saints.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. So, but these are some of the important ones to get in there. You know, Saint Lucia, Saint Nicholas,
Yeah.
Saint Martin's, Saint Bridget is good to, and these are when you should bring them. If you bring St. Patrick in February, St. Bridget is associated with Candlemas.
Okay.
So she should be brought around that time. Then you have St. Valentine, and then you have St. Francis is good, St. Christopher at the end of the year. They're really nice stories for the children in the spring. Because he has that poem about the earth and everything too, that they can learn. You know the poem I'm talking about. But there's a beautiful Canticle of the Sun. You ever heard that poem?
No.
And so it's a beautiful little poem for the springtime. And St. Christopher is the story about bears Christ across the water. That's what it means, a bearer of Christ. It's a really beautiful little story.
Oh, I love that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
You say tentacles of the Lord?
Canticles.
Yeah.
Canticles. Canticles of the Sun.
Oh Lord. Okay.
Okay, so let's jump over there. And let's jump over here. Now, these books are more first grade. This book is more first grade, but you still could find African folk tales you could weave in somewhere. You know, here it is. This is her book, El Scotkins.
Yes, I have that
You
one.
have that
yeah.
one?
Thank you. I've only read it 40 times, and I still don't feel like I can.
I got a bunch of junk, but I didn't find my main junk though. I didn't find any of my Dr. Hara books really. Now here's something that's really good. Unfortunately, these are CDs. I tried to copy them today.
No, that's
but,
good.
But these have the first 29 of these are verses through the grades that you can use in your classroom, and the last ones are songs through the grades.
Okay, and are those?
They're actually singing. They're actually doing the songs.
They are doing.
Yes. So they give you the tunes and everything. They're actually singing the songs.
So, are they in order by grade?
Could
Or?
have used that one. Yeah, they are. Well, they are. Yeah, they're in order by grade. So this is from 1 through 29 in order by grades.
Okay. It'll speak what grade it's for, right? Okay.
And then in order for songs from 30 to 68.
Awesome.
I should have gave you that one last year, but I didn't. First grade song.
Darn! I can give it to, or let Mike listen to it or something.
Yeah.
He probably has a ton. You know, Mike is just
right.
so prepared.
Well, he went through it once.
Yeah.
Some other things one thing is drawing. I have some drawing books. I have a drawing. That's another thing. And like I said, I don't know if any of these songs. I think this is good for second grade, or is it not? Miller's Three Sons. I think I used some songs out of here. I have a songbook. If I found it, I got all the songs that I found that were really good to use. But I'm not sure if this is going to be. Yeah, I can get songs in there. They're not pentatonic though, of course. The pentatonic songs are. This is the St. Francis, but it's not a book one. So I'm going to give it to you. So.
What's that one?
This is the story of St. Francis, but it's just a story. It's for you to read, but it doesn't do. It's not much value for the children at all. This is Roy Wilkinson teaching English. I think he goes all the way through the grades and gives a kind of a inner picture of it. So if you want to look at that.
Second grade, just second grade?
Hmm?
Is that just second grade? Or
No,
all
it's
the grades?
not.
Okay.
It goes through the grades, but it'll give you a picture of what's going on. He actually goes through and gives a good picture. This belongs to John Buckner.
You have to do that. I always end up with books and I look and if I can't find who it is, I'm like, well, that's mine.
And of course, this is the other reader. This is the more advanced reader. You know that they have the reader Hikmah.
Yes.
But if you did get through Hikmah, this would be a more advanced reader you could use.
And I have some children who are probably going to be ahead.
I had a 7th grade boy that I was tutoring. I had to use this book for this year.
You what?
I had a 7th grade boy. I had to use this book for this year.
That's sad.
Yeah. He made some progress, but he was way behind.
Yeah, I have several children in my class that could read this alone at their desk.
I don't know how good you are at drawing, but I wasn't all that great, so this was invaluable to me.
I love drawing.
Help me drawing, so you're good at drawing.
I would like to see that. May I use that?
Yeah.
Thank you. That's like upper grades.
No, I mean, well, no, it is for upper grades, but you just got to know how to, you don't draw with all this depth.
Right.
But it gives you a sense of how to get the pictures down. You can't draw.
I just like to,
and
I would like to just sit around
animals.
and draw some of those.
But you got to do animals, you
Yeah.
know, because you got to present the animals with the fables.
Right.
And so it's good. That's why I had this book, so I could get a sense of the different animals that I wanted to bring.
I love drawing horses. I used to just sit around and draw horses all day. It's the only animal I've mastered.
Right. So, because
draw a dog and it'll look like a.
Proportions and stuff can be really, Oh, so this found it helpful itself. Just put it back. Oh, here you can just have this book, because this is if you want to find out, this is a book of resources.
Oh, good.
It'll go by the grades. It'll tell you in the 2nd grade
Yeah.
a whole list of books that you could get to help you with the 2nd grade.
I wish there was a SparkNotes version of Steiner speaking about all the things that Steiner speaks about without me having to read the same line 50 times.
Right.
It is just so. I mean, I'm reading that This is a hard book. I mean, I've read it once before, but I just.
You didn't read the first part, right? Because I told you that was
No.
Yeah, that's why I have a separate lesson, in this thing on that book.
You were just talking about this one first part, the introduction, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're supposed to start with, what is it called? The 4 elements.
Not the introduction. It's
But the first thing you
the
should read is
educational tasks of Central Europe.
Yeah, we don't need all
Skip
that.
that one.
And then the one you start with is the one on the 4 elements, the etheric, astral, in the classroom. That's the one that says start with.
That was balance in teaching, I think. Or
Balance in teaching is the
this
last
one.
one. This one, right?
I did read some of that, but I don't remember which chapter.
Because that's all you need. You need to know how the 4 elements manifest in the classroom, and then the supersensible physiology and balance in teaching, those 3.
Was it this one that you were talking about?
The 3 fundamental forces in education, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that one. And then the next one after that is supersensible physiology. There's some key concepts in there. And then the last one is balance in teaching.
Okay. And then what about the rest of this?
Well, that's the last one. They're probably not that.
There's more.
It's probably not that necessary. What's that? Yeah, deeper insights into education. Just forget about that.
Forget
stuff.
this. Okay, cool.
Just, you need those 3 chapters. Those are the ones that are basically give you what you need in the classroom.
Okay.
Those 3. Like this thing goes through grade 1, and it gives you basically all the books and things that are related to teaching grade 1. Like you asked me what books you need for math. Well, it gives you all one. I got some of these somewhere. Bear Valley is an important book to look at for math. And then you go to the 2nd grade, so fables, and it tells you some good sources for getting books on fables. I have the animal stories. I can probably get that to you and find it. And then you probably got enough of these. These are saints and legends. And if you needed any stories that you could do for the Book of Fairy Princess, that's the one I'm talking about.
Okay.
So you get that one. And these right here are great for resting reading, these stories. And I have these yellow, red, and blue fairy books by Lane. I do have those. And there it tells you the books. You got Dorothy Harrow's math lessons. You get a find out. That's a good one to have.
I might have that already. Is it one of these? It's
Well,
like one of
blue
these,
books,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it goes to English. So you can just look at and keep that.
Cool.
So I think that's it. This
I
is-
know what I'll be doing later.
Yeah.
I'll be doing this instead of reading. Jeff,
Treasury, right.
I'll be doing.
Yeah, I don't know. You probably want to get something like this Treasury of Children's Poetry. This is my book of poems, but you know. But I have the other one. I gave you the other one I had in first grade, right? That green thick one I had of poems.
Yeah, I think
So
so.
having a good book of poems that you can pick out poems for.
I have a few. Okay.
You know, and then of course. Do you know what play you want to do this year? I have 2 playbooks. There's only really about 3 plays. I have St. Francis in the Wolf for 2nd grade. Unless you're going to make up your own play, which I don't recommend.
No.
And then there's a St. Martin's song that you can make into a play. There's a song about St. Martin's, and you can take that song and make it into a play.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's because in 2nd grade it's choral. It's like, they all sing this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I really recommend no individual speakers. People do that. That is totally inappropriate for 2nd grade. I mean, individual speakers.
Oh, I was way in over my head this year and decided to do a play when I knew that my children were already having a hard time, sitting in their desk.
Right.
And so I had this. I mean, by the time we were like 4 days away from the play, it was a mess. Okay, so I took them inside. In a circle, we're going to do our play, we're all going to speak the words, and we're going to be seated. And the parents were so impressed. I had it was a math play, so I had 4 children who were characters, and then I had a king that sat in the middle. So they got up and walked around, but they didn't do any speaking.
Right.
And it went so well. I'm so glad that I didn't.
Right.
Yeah, pull out of
that's
the play.
that's the kind of thing you need to do. You got to make those adjustments. That's capacity. So you went back to the capacity that children have, and then within those capacities, they always are great.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you stay within the capacity level of the children, they do these wonderful things.
Mm-hmm.
It's when you push them beyond the capacity,
Right.
you get something that doesn't quite.
And that
look right.
goes back to my children wanting to get to the treasure, and not because it was the same thing with the play, and I'm sure all first grade classes are like that, but they just wanted to, do all these things. They wanted to have their own lines. They wanted to have their own parts, and of course,
Right.
then children were falling apart if they didn't have a part. Or that's what I envision on the boat, them wanting to get there.
Right.
But when you just pull it back in, there's something about that was uneasy for them. That's not really what they were trying to say.
Right.
It was
the
whole thing was just anxiety.
and you just do choral. I mean, that shouldn't even be an issue.
Yeah.
Because all should be, even the parts should be choral. Like in the 2nd grade, I think I had 3 people in each part. It's like, and they're just out, but everybody's saying the whole thing. It's just, that's the experience that children should have.
Sure.
They shouldn't have this experience. In the 2nd grade, the 3rd grade, you're supposed to have individual speakers, but the whole class should learn the whole thing, and then the experiences of holding back, not of stepping forward, but holding back.
Right.
And I can just see people aren't doing it the way it's supposed to be done. The way it's done that meets the capacities of the children. But anyway, I have a book of plays too.
Okay, great.
Okay, I guess that's all the junk I got right now.
Those are helpful. Thank you. See all the junk I have right now.
Is water paying for this for you, or?
Yes,
Good.
I'm
Good.
sorry.
No, just good. I just
I
want to know.
thought you knew that.
No, I didn't.
But Rob said to meet as much as we want, that the money's there.
Okay.
And even if you wanted to meet more than once a week, or if I have my daughter, you're welcome to just come to the house so she can play or something.
So basically, let me see. Well, the question is, the things that you probably, if you need to, just let me know if you need some things fleshed out more.
I would like to do all of everything you have
Right.
planned,
But
and then I will probably have at least a lesson or two where I have questions and things I want to focus on.
So I got to point out to you that I'm actually not going to be here a week.
Okay.
And so we may need to do it more often because I'm not going to be here from the 31st to the 9th.
Okay.
And then, so if you want to do more before then, let me know.
Yeah, I mean, are you free this Tuesday? Maybe we can meet this Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday will work. Those are the days I said Tuesday and Thursday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Tuesday and Thursday I'm generally free.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me just talk to my mom. I'll email you, but it should be around the same time.
Okay. So maybe next time you want to go and try to work on a little bit of this. Now this is now just sort of the practical and the understanding. Like we can work on that with the book I just gave you. That's the next thing that was on the. Or we can go deeper. I don't have my little list of things that I put on there.
I need those forms from you too, that I'm supposed to work on.
Oh yeah.
With the calendar of the soul.
Yeah. Okay, here it is. So here's the thing. So what this we only just so on this part we didn't really do much. So I gave you those things, but we didn't really do this part.
Yeah.
And in the calendar, so you can review. And we of course this is a big theoretical thing that based on the balance and teaching. And then so we did this one and we did this one. This one's still kind of theoretical. We could be more practical if we want to. We could do some more practical stuff, like we can, like say capacity building in the lower grades. We could focus on first and second grade and actually look at the curriculum itself more in depth, rather than just giving you the overview.
Okay.
So what I'm saying, like really look at the second grade in terms of its capacity of analysis, and look at each part of the curriculum, the math and whatnot, more detail about how that really looked. How would you actually bring this capacity in the teaching of writing to read, and then on into choral reading, get a little more in depth in that, so I can give you more specific. Because, like you said, you want to be able to have your curriculum ready to go.
Yeah.
And so, what I would think that you need is to really see how this actually looks in a practical way.
Okay.
You know, so it can kind of be this, but it's be a lot more practical, not just giving you an overview of everything that comes. This is important, but I can try to weave it in, because understanding how these, see what happens with it for the children is that they you can see this is coming from this whole have the visual perception, sensory perception, that's coming from supersensible physiology, supersensible physiology in the balance and teaching book.
Mm-hmm.
So when you read that part of supersensible physiology,
mm-hmm.
you will see this thing that will talk about this visceral and sensory systems.
Oh, I did read some of that. Yeah.
And how they really work in memory and whatnot.
Right.
That's what this is about.
Okay.
This is sort of my practical work with that, to show how to bring that into the classroom. You know, so.
When are you wanting to do that one?
Well, let me see. I'm thinking let's go ahead and get some more practical stuff in there first.
Okay.
So I would say next time either we can go here and just look at skills and capacities, or we can go look at, let's do this one. Let's look at basically how the curriculum is going to be brought based on analysis. So how am I going to be, so where does it practically look in like in a twofold or a threefold. Twofold is space and time arts. Threefold is willing, feeling, and thinking. And those are the two things that we're using. We actually bring the curriculum. We either bring it in the wheel, bring it in feeling, or we bring it in thinking, or we bring it in space, or we bring it in time. Okay. And so if I actually had a lesson, like for math or reading or whatever, then how would I be utilizing those to bring that lesson out of this capacity for analysis? Okay? So I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, and I want to feel confident going into this year that I can observe the children, that I can build their capacities and be able to observe them, and then reflect on changing the things that I need to change for the next year.
You know, I have a form that I don't know if they used it last year, but I had a form for teachers that kind of carried them through the process of doing that. Okay. Did you ever see it? Or not? I think I still. A lot of things I lost because
I'm so unorganized. I'm sorry.
But it's all right. But a lot of my things I lost because they were on the Voter Up website, and then they eliminated my account.
Oh darn. Okay.
And so a lot of the stuff, if they don't still have it themselves, I don't have it anymore because they just went in and deleted my account without making sure I had everything off of it I wanted.
Do you ever just get, like, when you get too many resources, then it's just all,
look at
this.
Exactly.
It's just resources that I haven't used because there's too many.
Right. That's why, you have to know what you're going to use them for. And I told you about that astral and ego planning? Yeah, you got to be careful. Having astral planning where you're just looking at all your resources without eliminating them because you know what your intention is. And that's why we do this calendar of soul, because our intention is to steer, is to help the children learn to pay attention to steering the ship so that they can not just be focused on getting the treasure. And then we got to ask, how does that manifest in the curriculum? And then we can say, well, what do we need to do that?
Right.
Not just look at a lot of resources.
No, the resources are out of hand. The first year when I first started, Kyle actually gave me a box of resources, and I'm looking at it and I'm like,
right.
Somebody help me.
Right.
I didn't know what to do with it.
That's that astral planning. It doesn't work. It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
So. Okay.
All right. Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for all the good books.
Yeah, The King of Iron Sun is fun. The children enjoy it, we will enjoy it, and you will enjoy reading it to them. And there's a couple of other really nice ones.
I'm missing a few things.
You keep on asking me for those things, and I
okay.
haven't given to you yet.
I'm missing the summary, the report summary, and then those diagrams.
The curriculum description?
Yeah, that one.
Refolding. The refolding has 3 phases. First is just to get the image down. And to get the image down, you write your image up here, and then you look and see what are the polarities in the image. What things, and what that means, it doesn't mean polar opposite. Like in my case, it meant it was what the hooves were stuck in the brambles. So the hooves were one, and the bramble was the other. That's the polarity. And then
what was this one? Unity.
Unity means what's the in terms of this image, like it was the brambles here. What I wrote here was the brambles are separate from the stag.
Oh, I see.
And so that was the way it was connected back. But over here, the hooves were a part of the stag. So how is it unified with the original thing? And how does it connect? Unity. How does it connect? And then that gives you, so that's the way of getting the wisdom out. So and then I know. So then I was able to look at that and say, okay. And then the next thing.
Can I see yours again?
Yeah.
I don't remember what the middle thing is.
I can give you this. It's not really written on it well, but okay. So the middle one is relevance, and this is curriculum. You try to make connections between the image and the curriculum itself. Mm-hmm. That's what you try to do. So I said, okay, number sense. Number sense is if the stag is mad, number sense is directly connected to the curriculum element, whereas the algorithms are the brambles. They're not real. They're not really connected. So, and then I realized that that's the information I got, is that I got to remember that number sense needs to be, that these algorithms need to not exist separate from the number sense. Okay. And that's what I got out of that, is that I got to make sure that I don't, just like we were talking about teaching.
Like talking about the place value.
Place value,
yeah, okay.
Unless it's connected to this whole number sense, and then, you want to keep things integrated. Yeah. And that's what I got from my image, that there is this potential for a lack of integration. That's what and then who knows what you get from your image, but you take your image and you ask yourself, how does this inform me about the curriculum overall?
Sure.
And then I ask myself, how does it inform me about the structure of the day? So how am I going to bring this stuff in the day? Is that the one? No, that's the first one.
That's the number one. I have this here.
The next one is this one. And so this is about what you have. So I have the 2-fold and 3-fold lessons. So how do I try to, so whatever I got from the previous one, how it's relevant, how am I going to bring that through space and time marks and through willing, feeling, and thinking? So you're trying to make this practical now. If that's what I've informed, if I got informed that number sense needs to be connected to the arithmetic, I got to make sure the arithmetic doesn't become a separate thing from number sense. How am I now going to bring that in my space and time marks and in my daily rhythm of willing, feeling, and thinking? So now I'm getting very concrete. How am I going to make sure that the curriculum that I'm bringing is informed by that understanding I have in the curriculum. That's what I'm trying to do in the last one, is come up with some ideas of how that's going to happen. And that's always in terms of space and time wise. Like you might realize, oh, well, for instance, this is a time warp. Math is a time warp. Well, that's not really true. But math is a time warp, and what we try to do is teach the children to express it spatially. That's what all the columns are. That's why the arithmetic is. All the algorithms are spatial. But math itself is a time warp. It's rhythm. It's a rhythmic quality. And we try to teach the children to experience that in a spatial way. And that's what we got to realize we're doing. We want them to hold on to the nature of math as a time warp. And the music is a big example. Music is a spatialization of a time warp. So when I write music, that's what I've done. I've made something that just in time, I have made it spatial. And so that's what we're looking at when we, in the end, we're saying, how do I, and then something that's spatial, like writing, how do I bring the phonetic blends themselves are time warps. Like when you reading is a time warp, and writing is a space arc. And so we start with a space arc, and we take them to the time warp. And so that's always happening. That twofold thing is always happening. You need to start thinking about it like that. How am I understanding this in terms of this flexibility between space arc and time warp, and weaving those back and forth for the children? And then how am I using willing, feeling, and thinking in those areas? So. But anyway, that's what the lesson is. It's the structural revelation of the image, the twofold and the threefold. You can take.
Have a hard time with that.
I mean, I was just jotting down. I was trying to remember what I did before, and jotting this down really quick, so it's not really written up very well.
Can I put numbers on yours? Do you mind if I put a number?
Yeah, you can keep them. Like I said, these aren't really written that well because here's one.
This is the third one. Okay.
And this morning I just said, okay, I need to kind of quickly remember what I did on mine. So I went back to my image and just cranked those out. You can see this kind of just really quickly. Here's one. I gave you copies of it.
I just have the first page. Oh wait, no, I have one. I have one page. I just need page 2 and 3.
1, 2, 3. So you need 1.
I need blank 2 and 3.
Blank 2 and 3. There you go. Again, I had some free folding done, all typed up on my over Gmail drive, but they were all gone. That's one reason I had to do this morning.
It's unfortunate that you lost all that stuff.
Yeah. They heard this. Like, today we're going to delete your Gmail account. Is there anything you need to get off of there or remove or anything?
That happens every time you leave somewhere. That happened to me when I left both my last jobs. I lost everything, and of course I was using my work email for other reasons.
Right.
Then I got locked out of a really important account, and it was linked to my old job, and I was like, now what do I do?
Oops, dang, I forgot to stop this thing. We have a lot of garbage on here.
What?
We have a lot of garbage on here. I didn't stop this recording.
Uh-oh.
When we actually were finished, so.
Can you go back and cut it?
Yeah, I can, actually. It's kind of not as easy on here.